In the vast halls of the Galactic Union's Central Archive, where millions of interstellar reports were stored in neat rows of glowing data crystals, a junior archivist named Corin was assigned to clean up old files. His task was simple: sort, label, and if needed, delete outdated records that no one had opened in centuries. Corin didn't expect anything interesting. Most of the files were dry reports about trade agreements, planetary disputes, or minor diplomatic visits. But as he scrolled through a forgotten folder labeled Human Intervention, Class C Anomaly, something caught his eye. The file was old, over 35 Earth years, and it was locked behind a low-level security tag. That meant nothing dangerous, just something unusual enough to be noted but not important enough to protect. With a few taps on his console, Corin accessed the main report. It began like this: Galactic Incident Report, X4582, ZEF filed by Zalari Diplomatic Observer, Virex 7 date. Cycle 4721.03, 14 summary. A human citizen, identified as Dr. Elias Vance, male, age 42, performed unsanctioned medical treatment on Her Royal Highness Princess Thryla Vera of the Zalari Dominion. The incident occurred at an unregistered Earth facility known locally as Vance Medical Clinic, located in the city of Midvale, United States of America. Outcome: Princess Thryla survived with full recovery despite exposure to neurotoxin VX9, classified Level 6 poison. No formal charges were filed against the human due to royal pardon and unexpected success of treatment. Corin blinked. A human doctor? Treating a Zalari princess? He read on. The report described how the princess had been part of a secret diplomatic mission on Earth when she was poisoned during a covert meeting gone wrong. She had fled alone, bleeding silver-blue blood, and collapsed outside the small clinic, run by Dr. Vance. At first, Vance thought it was a prank. Someone dressed in costume, maybe for a movie or convention. But when he saw the wound, deep, glowing faintly, and felt her pulse, weak, fast, he acted without thinking. He stitched the injury. He gave her antibiotics. He made her drink warm broth. And somehow, impossibly, she started to heal. Later analysis showed the toxin should have killed her within hours. But Vance had unknowingly used a mix of natural earth herbs and basic medicine that neutralized its effects. It was pure luck, or instinct. But it worked. The report included comments from several observers. Primitive tools, primitive knowledge, yet results exceeded expectations. Virex 7. The human did not panic. He treated her like any other patient. That calm may have saved her. Medical analyst Dora K9. He never asked who she was. He only asked if she could feel her fingers. Translator Unit Zeta 2 Corin leaned back, amazed. Humans were strange, everyone knew that. They were emotional, loud, messy, and often illogical. But they also had something called compassion, a trait rarely seen in more advanced species. The file continued. After the incident, the princess recovered fully and returned to her home world. There was no public announcement. No formal thanks, just a quiet message from the royal family. Let the healer go undisturbed. And yet months later, a sealed package arrived at Vance's clinic. No return address, no markings. Inside was a small black cube with a single note. You healed me when no one else could. I will repay you. In time. The file ended there. But what really confused Corin was this. The package had been scanned before delivery. Inside, sensors detected a faint energy signature, unknown type. The cube was flagged for review. And then, the report simply stopped. No follow-up, no explanation. Just silence. Corin sat back in his chair, frowning. What happened next? Why did the princess send that gift? And why did someone, or something, want the file buried? He looked at the screen again. There, at the bottom of the report, was a final line barely visible beneath layers of old code. Access denied, further details restricted by Royal Order Narati 774. Corin's curiosity burned hotter than ever. He copied the file. He marked it for further study, and he promised himself he would find out what happened after the cube arrived, because sometimes even the smallest stories held the biggest secrets. Doctor. Elias Vance was not a famous doctor. He didn't work in a big city hospital. He didn't publish papers, he didn't win awards. He ran a small clinic in Midvale, a town most people had never heard of. His days were filled with coughs, colds, broken bones, and the occasional flu outbreak. Life was simple, predictable, until that night. Corin, the junior archivist from the Galactic Union, sat at his desk, reading the transcript of an old interview between Vance and a Zellari investigator named Virex-7. The file had been hidden deep inside the same data crystal as the first report. It took Corin hours to decode it, but when he did, the story unfolded like this. Interview log, VX4582. A subject, Dr. Elias Vance interviewer, Zellari diplomatic observer, Virex-7 location, Earth, Vance medical clinic date, cycle 4721.03, 16 Virex-7. Thank you for speaking with me, Doctor. Vance. Sure, but I still don't get why you're here. I just patched up someone who got hurt. Virex-7. You treated Her Royal Highness Princess Thryla of the Zellari Dominion. That is not just patching up. Vance. She looked hurt. I helped. That's what I do. The recording paused briefly. Then Virex-7 played back a photo of the night in question. A woman lay on the clinic bed, glowing faintly under the light. Her skin shimmered with soft blue lines like rivers under moonlight. Vance, softly, yeah. She showed up out of nowhere, just collapsed outside my door. Virex-7. What did you think she was? Vance. Honestly, I thought it was a costume, some kind of movie thing, maybe a prank. But then I saw her wound, and her pulse. That wasn't fake. Virex-7. Describe what you did next. Vance. I cleaned the cut, stopped the bleeding, gave her fluids, told her to breathe. Then I made her some soup. There was a long silence. Virex-7. Soup? Vance. Chicken noodle. From a can. She drank it. Said it was warm. I told her to rest. The interview continued. Later, Vance described how the woman, who hadn't spoken much at first, slowly began to respond to his care. She watched him with curious eyes. When he asked if she could feel her fingers, she nodded. When he gave her painkillers, she blinked like she'd never seen them before. She never told him who she was, and he never asked. What shocked the Zellari observer most was not that Vance had saved a royal life. It was how he did it. He used no advanced tools, no scanners, no knowledge of alien biology, just basic medicine, clean hands, calm voice, and something called human touch. Later, the Galactic Science Division added their notes to the file. The neurotoxin VX-9 is undetectable by human sensors. Its effects should have been fatal within 2 hours. Yet Vance neutralized its impact using natural compounds found in common earth herbs such as ginger root, garlic, and thyme, substances previously unknown to interact with Zellari biochemistry. His actions were not based on science but on instinct and experience. This suggests a rare form of cross-species medical intuition. Another note followed. It is believed that the warmth of the broth combined with the gentle pressure of his hand on her shoulder may have triggered a stabilizing neurological response in the patient. Further study required. Corin read the last line again. Further study required. He leaned back, thinking. This human had done what no trained Zellari medic could, not because he knew more, but because he cared more. And yet Vance never knew who she really was. He never tried to profit from it. He simply went back to his clinic the next day, treating patients like nothing had changed. But something had changed, because weeks later, the princess left behind a message in the Galactic Archives, one only, a few would ever see. I owe this man more than my life. I will return the favor in time. Corin felt a chill. He closed the file, saved it, and marked it for further review. Because sometimes the strangest stories begin with the simplest acts, like a bowl of soup and a doctor who didn't ask questions, only listened, cared, and healed. Deep inside the Zilari Royal Archives, hidden behind layers of encrypted memory crystals, was a file labeled only as Personal Log, Princess Thryla, Vera Access Level, Restricted, Royal Blood Code Required. Corin, the junior archivist from the Galactic Union, had no such clearance. But he was clever and curious. After weeks of searching through old diplomatic logs, side files, and forgotten backups, he found a copy of the princess's report, buried inside an unrelated shipment record. It was incomplete, corrupted in places, but enough remained to reveal something rare, a royal alien's personal thoughts on a human. The log began like this. Personal log. Princess Thryla Veridate. Cycle 4721.03. 18 location. Recovery chamber. Zilari Prime. I write this not for history but for myself. I survived. That much is clear. My body has healed. My mind is whole. Yet something inside me feels changed. Not by the poison. By the healer. The log paused here, as if she hesitated before continuing. Then her voice returned, softer now. When I fled the meeting gone wrong, I did not expect to live. The toxin worked fast. My vision blurred, my limbs failed. I remember falling hard, and then nothing, until I woke up in a small room with white walls and soft lights, and a man beside me. She described Dr. Elias Vance with careful detail. He was not tall. His face showed age but not weakness. His hands were steady, his voice calm. He did not panic when he saw me. He did not scream. He simply acted. He cleaned my wound. He stitched it without flinching. He gave me fluids, then broth, and he sat with me. Not to watch, to be there. Thryla wrote how strange it felt to be touched so gently by someone who didn't know her name, let alone her title. Humans touch often. Too often, some might say. But it is not random. There is meaning in it, care, comfort, connection. When he placed his hand on my shoulder, I felt warmth. Not just physical, but something deeper. Like I was seen, known, safe. Her notes continued, filled with observations about Earth culture. They eat strange food, loud music, messy homes, but they laugh easily, cry openly, and they care deeply, even for strangers. Vance never asked who I was, never tried to take anything, just made sure I could breathe, could feel my fingers, could sleep without fear. There was one line that stood out more than others. I have lived among stars and palaces. I have been praised by emperors and feared by diplomats. But in that tiny clinic, for the first time in my life, I felt human. Corin read that again. He couldn't believe it. A royal princess, calling herself human, even for a moment. It was almost poetic. Later in the log, Thryla spoke of her return home. My people celebrated my survival. My parents embraced me. My advisors questioned everything. Who helped me? Where? How? I told them only what they needed to know, that I was saved by a human doctor, that I owed him a debt, that I would repay it, someday. She ended the log with a final thought. Humans are not advanced, not by our standards, but they feel deeply. They act without reward. They heal with heart. Maybe we should stop judging them by what they lack and start learning from what they give. Corin closed the file slowly. He looked at the screen, and for the first time he smiled. Because now he understood something important. This wasn't just a story about a human saving a princess. It was about a human reminding a royal of something she had almost forgotten. What it meant to feel, to care, to be alive. And somewhere out there, That same human was still living quietly in a small town, unaware that his kindness had reached across stars, and that the princess was already planning to return. Dr. Elias Vance went back to his quiet life in Midvale. He treated colds, stitched cuts, gave advice, and made soup when needed. The strange night he helped the glowing woman faded into memory like a dream. He never told anyone what happened, not even his sister. And so, life moved on. Until one rainy morning, a package arrived at his clinic. It sat on his desk, small and black, with no return address and no label, just a single line printed on the top, "For the one who healed me." Vance stared at it for a long time. Then he opened it. Inside was a smooth, dark cube about the size of his palm. It was warm to the touch and pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Beside it lay a folded piece of white paper. He unfolded it carefully. Written in neat human handwriting were these words: "You healed me when no one else could. Now I give you something only you can understand. Plant it where you feel most alone." That was all. No name. No explanation. Just a seed, a single silver-blue seed that shimmered in the light like it held stars inside. Vance looked at it closely. It wasn't like anything he'd seen before. Not earth-grown, not store-bought. Something different. He thought for a moment. Then he walked outside. Behind his clinic was a small patch of dirt. Nothing fancy, just grass and weeds. But there was a quiet corner where he used to sit after long days. A place where the world felt far away. He knelt down, dug a small hole, placed the seed inside, covered it gently, and waited. Nothing happened. Days passed, then weeks. The rain came and went. The seasons changed. Fall turned to winter, then spring. Birds returned. Flowers bloomed. But nothing grew from the spot where he had planted the seed. Neighbors asked if he was gardening now. He just smiled and said, "Maybe." But then one night, it rained. Hard. By morning, Vance stepped outside and stopped. There, in the corner of the yard, stood a tiny green sprout, no taller than his thumb, glowing faintly in the early light. He crouched beside it, touched it, gently, and something strange happened, not with sound, not with sight, but with feeling. A warmth spread through his chest, like comfort, like memory, like someone was saying thank you without words. He pulled his hand away. The glow faded, but the feeling stayed. Back in the Galactic Archive, Corin read the next file with growing excitement. This part had been hidden in a local Earth news database under a minor article titled, "Strange Plant Grows in Midvale. Residents report unusual feelings when near it." Corin matched the date. It was the same time Vance's plant began to grow. The article included quotes from neighbors. "I don't know why, but every time I walk past that tree I feel calm," said Mrs. Lanning, age 67. "My son has autism," said Mr. Delaney. "He usually doesn't like loud places, but yesterday he sat by that plant for an hour and didn't say a word, just smiled." More reports followed. Birds gathered near the tree at dawn. Flowers bloomed out of season. At night, the leaves hummed softly. Not loud, but enough to hear, if you stood close. Corin leaned closer to his screen. What was this plant? Why had the princess sent it, and why did it seem to feel? He scrolled further and found a new entry, this one from a Zellari science team that had secretly visited Earth years later. They had studied the plant. Their findings were shocking. This is no ordinary seed. It is a memory grove seed. Oh, sacred item in Zellari culture, used only in royal rituals, only given to those who have touched our hearts. It bonds with emotion, with care, with kindness. Thryla broke tradition by giving it to a human. But somehow, it worked. Corin closed his eyes. He understood now. This wasn't just a gift. It was a message, a thank you, a promise. And it had grown from a single act of kindness. A doctor who didn't ask questions, only cared. not just any tree. It stood tall and slender, with silver-blue leaves that shimmered even under cloudy skies. Its bark looked like smooth glass reflecting the sunlight in soft waves. And at night it glowed faintly, not bright but enough to light the dark without fear. People began to notice. First, it was just the neighbors. Then came the reporters, and finally, the scientists. A local news station from Midvale ran a short piece titled, "Mysterious Tree Blooming Overnight. Residents Report Calm Feelings, Unusual Bird Activity." The article included quotes from locals. "I've been walking by it every morning," said Mrs. Lanning, who lived across the street from Vance's clinic. "Feels like someone is holding my hand even when I'm alone." "My dog won't stop barking at it," joked Mr. Delaney. "But he also won't leave its side." E.T. botanist from the nearby university tried to study the plant. He took samples. He scanned the leaves. He tested the soil. Nothing matched any known species on Earth. "This isn't native," he told a reporter. "It doesn't follow normal growth patterns. It's growing on its own time." More strange things started happening. Birds that shouldn't have been in Midvale gathered near the tree at sunrise. Some sang songs no one recognized. Others simply perched there, silent and still. Flowers bloomed out of season all around the clinic. Daisies in December, roses in March. At night, if you stood close enough, you could hear a soft hum, like wind through distant stars. Some people called it magical, others called it weird, but everyone agreed on one thing. Something about the tree made them feel different, better, peaceful, like it understood them. Back in the Galactic Archive, Corin read the next file with wide eyes. This part had been recovered from an old Earth surveillance log, footage taken from a camera mounted outside Vance's clinic. The video showed Vance standing beside the tree late one night. He reached out, touched the bark, closed his eyes, and for a moment he smiled, a quiet, deep kind of smile, like he had remembered something important. Corin paused the video. He scrolled down and found a report attached to the footage. It was written by a Zalari science team that had secretly visited Earth years after the tree appeared. Their findings were shocking. Preliminary analysis confirms this is a memory grove seed, a rare and sacred item used only in royal Zalari ceremonies. These seeds are not planted. They are given, only to those who show great emotional impact on a Zalari soul. Once bonded, the tree acts as a living archive, storing memories, emotions, and even thoughts of those who touch it. It does not speak, but it listens. And it gives back comfort, warmth, peace. Another line caught Corin's attention. The seed should not have bonded with a human, yet it did. And now it grows stronger. He leaned back, heart pounding. This wasn't just a gift. It was a bridge. Between two worlds, between two hearts. One human, one alien. Connected through kindness, through care, through healing. Word spread quickly about the tree. Soon, people from other towns came to see it. They brought flowers, candles, notes. Some sat beneath its branches and cried. Others laughed. Children played nearby, unaware of how special it was. But they felt it. Everyone did. Even visitors from far away reported the same thing. It feels like home. And Dr. Elias Vance? He watched it all quietly. Never asked for attention. Never gave interviews. Just kept doing what he always did. Helping people. Listening. Caring. And sometimes, sitting beneath the tree himself. Touching its bark. Feeling the warmth. Remembering the night he saved someone he didn't know, and how she returned the favor in the most unexpected way. Back in the Galactic Archive, Corin sat at his desk, eyes wide with excitement. He had just accessed a new file, one that had been hidden inside an old Zalari science team's encrypted log. The file was labeled Project Grove Seed, Confidential Research Subject, Human Interaction with Royal Memory Plant. He tapped the screen. The report began. Initial assumptions suggested the memory grove seed would not bond with non-Zalari life forms. This belief was based on centuries of tradition and biological study. We were wrong. Corin leaned closer. The report went on to describe how a secret team of Zalari scientists had visited Earth several times over the years to observe the growing tree. They recorded everything, from its growth patterns to how it affected those who touched it. They found something astonishing. The seed did not merely survive in human care, it thrived. More importantly, it formed a deep emotional bond with Dr. Elias Vance, the human healer. This connection is unprecedented in our history. One scientist noted, "We believe the seed responded to Vance not because of his knowledge or power, but because of his heart. His ability to heal without fear, to comfort without need, created a bond strong enough to cross species lines." Corin, read on. The scientist discovered that the tree wasn't just listening to people, it was recording them. Every touch, every word, every feeling. It stored them like memories in a living library. Those who interact with the tree often feel as if they are being understood in ways no other being could. Some say they remember lost loved ones. Others feel peace for the first time in years. This is not magic, it is biology, evolved to connect through emotion. The report included field notes from one of the observers. I placed my hand on the bark. I felt warmth. Then I remembered my mother's voice. Even though she passed away long ago, how does a human tree hold my memory? Another note followed. We now believe the tree has begun to spread. Small saplings have appeared in nearby gardens. One grew overnight beside a hospital window, another near a school playground. These plants do not grow like normal life. They appear where they are needed most. Corin blinked. The princess hadn't just given Vance a gift, she had given him a legacy. And it was growing. Fast. Back on Earth, Dr. Elias Vance noticed the changes too. At first it was small things, flowers blooming out of season, birds singing strange songs. Then came the saplings. A few appeared in Midvale, one outside the local hospital, another near the town's Memorial Park. No one planted them, they just showed up. One morning without warning. Neighbors took care of them, watered them, spoke to them. And again, people reported the same thing. I don't know why, but when I sit next to it I feel lighter. Vance watched it all quietly. He never claimed to understand what was happening, but he knew this. The tree had come from someone who cared, and now it was passing that care forward. The final part of the Zalari report ended with a bold statement. We must reevaluate our understanding of humans. For too long, we have seen them as primitive, emotional, unpredictable. But perhaps these traits are not weaknesses. Perhaps they are gifts we have failed to recognize. The Memory Grove seed bonded with a human not by accident, but by choice. And now, it grows beyond one place, beyond one person. This is not contamination. This is connection. Corin closed the file slowly. He looked at the screen one last time, then he stood up. He walked across the archive room, and he opened a new document, typed a single title at the top. Human Intervention, Class C Anomaly, Expanded Report, and beneath it he wrote, Sometimes healing is not about knowledge. Sometimes it is about kindness. And sometimes the smallest act of care can grow into something that touches the stars. What began as a single tree in Midvale had become something far greater. Memory Grove plants now stood in cities, villages, hospitals, and quiet corners of the world. They didn't grow where people expected them. They grew where they were needed. A sapling appeared outside a children's cancer ward in Tokyo. Another bloomed beside a refugee camp in North Africa. One even took root in the middle of a busy park in New York City, where no one noticed it until someone sat beneath its branches and wept for the first time in months, then smiled. People called them hope trees. They didn't speak. They didn't move. But those who touched them said they felt understood, listened to. Peaceful. Back in the Galactic Archive, Corin reviewed the final report from the Zalari Ethics Committee. It was titled Observation Report. Human interaction with memory grove plants. He tapped the screen and began reading. Initial concerns about cultural contamination have been reevaluated. The spread of the memory grove plants has not caused panic or conflict. Instead, it has brought calm, healing, and unity. These plants do not force themselves on others. They appear silently. They wait. And when touched with open hearts, they give back what the person needs most: memory, comfort, or simply the feeling of not being alone. Corin read on. Believe the plants are guided by emotion, not logic. They respond to pain, grief, love, and hope, and they seem to choose their locations carefully. This suggests a level of awareness beyond normal plant life. It also suggests that Princess Thryla's gift was more than just gratitude. It was an act of trust. There was one line that stood out among all the rest. Perhaps humans are not the ones being changed by this legacy. Perhaps it is us. Corin leaned back in his chair. He thought about Dr. Elias Vance, the small-town doctor who had never asked for anything. He had healed a princess without knowing who she was. He had planted a seed without expecting it to grow, and now the world was changing, gently, quietly, because of that one act of kindness. On Earth, Vance still ran his clinic in Midvale. He was older now. His hair had turned gray, his steps slower, but he still came in every day, still treated colds, still stitched wounds, still made soup when needed. Sometimes he would step outside and sit beneath the tree. He never spoke much when he did. Just sat, touched the bark, closed his eyes, and remembered. The night he saved someone, the gift she gave him, the peace it brought, and how, somehow, it had grown into something bigger than either of them. Back at the archive, Corin opened a new file. He titled it, Human Intervention, Class C Anomaly, Final Review. And under it, he wrote, For centuries, the Galactic Union has studied humans from a distance. We have watched them fight, laugh, cry, build, break, try again. We have often wondered why they matter so much. Maybe now we understand. Because sometimes the smallest acts of care can change the universe. And sometimes a human healer can teach an entire species what it means to feel. He, paused, then added one last sentence. Maybe we should stop asking what humans can learn from us, and start asking what we failed to understand all along.